Exposed. My elderly parents frozen outside. I discovered an amazing family truth within one house. The wind howled like a banshee, biting at Sarah's face as she raced home, her heart pounding with urgency. Outside, snow swirled in thick flurries, turning her small Midwestern town into a winter wonderland gone rogue. After another grueling 12-hour shift at the hospital, the weight of the day settled on her shoulders. She usually found solace in the quiet moments at home, but tonight was different tonight. Panic ripped through her as she imagined her elderly parents, Jim and Mary, waiting alone, vulnerable against the chill of the storm. Bursting through the door, her breath visible in the icy air, Sarah's heart plummeted. There, huddled on the porch, were her parents shivering, eyes wide with confusion. "Mom, Dad, what happened?" she gasped, rushing to unlock the door, her hands trembling as she fumbled with the key. They had been locked out. The bitter cold sank into her skin, making her feel every second slip by as she ushered them inside. The moment the door clicked shut behind them, warmth enveloped Sarah, yet a heavier cold crept in. The reality struck like a lightning bolt. Financial struggles had strained their family ties, and frustration bubbled up inside her. She couldn't ignore the resentment that had built over years of missed opportunities, her parents' dreams seemingly sacrificed for her family's modest existence. As her parents settled into the living room, she felt a storm of emotions twist her stomach. Memories of laughter and love haunted her. Were they truly happy, or had they buried their dreams beneath grimy layers of hardship and obligation? The cozy abode that once felt like a sanctuary had become a reminder of lost aspirations. Sighing, Sarah wandered to the attic, desperate to find blankets. Instead, she unearthed an old cardboard box and, curious, pulled it into the light. Dust cascaded as she opened it, revealing a forgotten photo album. Flipping it open, each faded image told a story: summers at the lake, awkward family portraits, and snapshots of parents who once dreamed big, places they never visited, and smiles full of hope. Tears pricked her eyes as she saw her father's bright grin beside her younger self, arms raised high, filled with the kind of joy that only a child can know. "What happened to us?" she whispered, her voice trembling. The sacrifices her parents made didn't mean she had to lose her dreams. A feeling stirred deep inside her, a burning desire to rewrite their family's narrative. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The photographs ignited a wildfire of love and understanding. Engaging her parents in conversation, their stories spilled forth, times spent together fighting life's uphill battles, where hope flickered dimly but never extinguished. The quiet strength etched on their faces spoke volumes of long-held sacrifices, and Sarah felt a profound connection forming like the shattering of ice in spring. With new resolve, Sarah took the initiative to organize a fundraiser. It clicked. What if they could galvanize the entire community to support not just her family, but others who silently faced similar struggles? As she laid out her plans, she realized her parents had become the heart of the campaign. Their sacrifices would inspire unity, drawing neighbors closer together in the face of shared hardships. Standing back, Sarah envisioned the warmth returning to their home, but would she expose their vulnerabilities to the world? Would they stand together, or would the truth fracture their fragile bond? The air buzzed with uncertainty, a tale of love and redemption waiting to unfold. The next morning dawned cold and gray, but Sarah felt a flicker of warmth inside her. The conversation with her parents lingered. Their laughter had chased away the shadows that had crept in during the night. She had shared her idea for the fundraiser over hot cocoa, and while her father had hesitated, her mother's eyes sparkled with belief, something she hadn't seen in a long time. After breakfast, Sarah pulled out her laptop and began researching ways to host the event. The excitement swirled like the snowflakes outside, fueling her determination to turn her family's struggles into a collective strength. She envisioned a community gathering, complete with food, laughter, and heartfelt stories that could transform their neighborhood. No more hiding behind closed doors. This would be a celebration of resilience. Hours passed as she typed furiously, brainstorming ideas and reaching out to local businesses for donations. Carefully crafting her message, she planned to touch the hearts of those around her, encouraging them to participate not only for her family, but for all those who had ever felt alone in their struggles. With a few clicks, she spread the word on social media, her heart racing as messages of support began to flow in. But just as hope peaked, doubt clawed at her. Would anyone show up? Would her parents feel exposed? She remembered her father's unsure expression when she first mentioned the fundraiser. Maybe it wasn't just her fears. Perhaps they felt the pressure of being under the community's microscope. That afternoon, she found a quiet moment alone, staring at the photo album she had unearthed. Page after page, it whispered stories of hope and dreams, lives led in pursuit of happiness. Focusing on a specific picture, her parents hand in hand by the lake, a realization struck her. This wasn't just about raising money. It was about fostering connection, bringing light to those who shared similar experiences. Over the next few days, Sarah dove deeper into her preparations. She organized games, contacted local musicians willing to perform, and even set up a bake sale table. The response from the community was overwhelming. Friends, neighbors, even strangers reached out, eager to help. But as the date approached, the internal conflict continued to brew. One night, Sarah gathered her parents on the couch, the glow from the fireplace casting warm light on their worried faces. "I know you're scared," she began gently, "but this isn't just about us. It's about everyone who struggles. We have the chance to show them they're not alone. You've always taught me the power of community. Let us step into the light together." Her mother's eyes glistened with unshed tears, but her father hesitated. "I just don't want to be a burden," he murmured, guilt weaving through his voice. "Dad, we're a family," Sarah insisted, her heart pounding. "We can face this together. We can inspire others who need to know they matter." The words hung in the air, heavy and hopeful. The day of the fundraiser arrived, bright and sunny, a stark contrast to the cold that had long clung to their town. As neighbors set up tables and decorations, Sarah felt a rush of adrenaline. This was it. As the event began, she stood nervously at the entrance, smiling at everyone who arrived. But as familiar faces poured in, the reality hit hard. Vulnerability feels like stepping out onto a cliff. Would they embrace the openness she craved, or would it leave them exposed in a way they weren't ready to face? Just then, a gentle hand clasped her shoulder. It was her mother, beaming. "Remember the lake, Sarah?" she whispered. "We're not just making this for ourselves, we're doing this for everyone who needs to know that they are not alone." And that's when Sarah understood. The moment of truth was coming, and she was ready to embrace it. But as she turned around to greet more guests pouring in, she noticed someone slipping in through the back. A face she didn't expect to see. What had they come to say? The figure stepped into the sunlight, hesitating for a moment as if scanning the room. When Sarah's gaze landed on them, her heart lodged in her throat. It was Mrs. Thompson, the elderly woman from down the street. They'd always exchanged pleasantries, but never had she felt so caught off guard by the weight of that familiar face. "Mrs. Thompson," Sarah called out, forcing a smile to mask her surprise. "I didn't expect to see you here." The woman smiled back, though her eyes bore a heaviness that made Sarah's pulse race. "Dear, I wouldn't miss it for the world." She stepped closer, her silver hair shimmering in the light. Sarah's thoughts raced. Did Mrs. Thompson know something? Was there a secret buried in the past that was about to come to light? Suddenly, the room began to fill with laughter and cheerful chatter as guests mingled, but Sarah couldn't shake the strange feeling that hung between them. She pulled her hand away from the welcoming committee at the entrance, pulling Mrs. Thompson aside to a quieter spot. "Is everything okay?" Sarah whispered, trying to read her expression. Mrs. Thompson sighed, glancing around to ensure no one else was within earshot. "Sarah, there's something you need to know about your family." Her voice trailed off, a mixture of concern and urgency painting her features. "What do you mean?" Panic bubbled in Sarah's chest. Was it about her father's past? Or something related to their financial struggles? "I knew your grandparents well. They were incredible people," Mrs. Thompson began, her words laced with nostalgia. "And they had a burden that, well, they never spoke of it. but it involved your family's legacy. The term legacy struck Sarah like lightning. She had never heard of anything beyond their regular stories. What legacy? She pressed, her voice barely above a whisper now, infused with fear and anticipation. Mrs. Thompson turned serious, her gaze unwavering. It's complicated, dear. But what I know is that your family has always been more than what meets the eye. There's strength in your blood, something that might change everything for you, especially in times of struggle. Just then, a loud cheer erupted from the group gathered outside as a local band began to play. The joyful sound broke the tension, but Sarah felt her heart race with a different kind of rhythm. The flame of curiosity flickered stronger as she replayed Mrs. Thompson's words in her mind, the promise of revelation tinged with something peculiar. Can we talk later? Sarah asked, glancing back at her parents who were deeply engaged with other guests, their laughter ringing like music in her heart. She didn't want to disrupt the lighter moment they were experiencing. Of course, sweetheart. Just know, sometimes the truth of a family can be overwhelming, Mrs. Thompson replied gently, her old eyes filled with empathy. With that, she stepped back into the crowd, leaving Sarah standing there, bewildered. Questions swirled in her mind as she returned to the entrance, her breath hitching at the thought of what lay just beyond the surface. What kind of burdens did her family carry? And what redemption awaited if they could uncover these truths? Amid the vibrant community around her, she felt the weight of an impending storm within. The day seemed brighter, but shadows lingered in the corners of her consciousness. As she joined her parents, a sense of urgency propelled her forward. Everything she believed about her family, every struggle, and every triumph might be about to change. What could possibly unravel as she searched for answers? And would it change the way they faced the world outside together? The band played on, their lively tunes carrying across the lawn. Laughter echoed around Sarah, but she felt distant from the festivities. Each cheerful note rang hollow in her ears, blending with the chaotic thrum of questions racing through her mind. What did Mrs. Thompson know? What burden existed in her family's history that might crush the perfect picture she thought they lived in? Sarah, honey. Her mother's voice called, bright and cheery. Come on, let us dance. For a fleeting moment, Sarah contemplated joining her parents. They seemed so carefree, lost in their own world of joy. But then she caught a glimpse of Mrs. Thompson in the crowd, the older woman's watchful eyes still honing in on her. Sarah felt a pull like a compass, one that was nudging her toward an undiscovered direction. I'll be right there, she called back, forcing a smile to mask her turmoil. With determined steps, Sarah made her way back to where she had last seen Mrs. Thompson. The crowd parted as she navigated the happy chaos, but her heart weighed heavy. She finally spotted her, sitting on a bench, observing the party like a sage watching over her flock. Mrs. Thompson, Sarah approached, her voice hushed and urgent. I need to know, what does this legacy mean for my family? Please, tell me. The older woman looked up, obviously knowing her pleas held depth. Meet me at my house when the festivities end. There's so much to discuss, she said quietly, but her eyes sparkled with unspoken wisdom. I will, Sarah promised, her heart racing with both fear and anticipation. Thank you. Just then, a burst of laughter erupted from the dance floor, the perfect distraction to break the weight of their conversation. Sarah felt a pang of envy. Friends twirled, barefoot on the grass, as they embraced the summer sun. She longed to feel unburdened by secrets, a part of the moment instead of an outsider looking in. As the day wore on, the music and chatter faded into the background, and each laugh seemed to mask a whisper of the truth she desperately needed. She found herself glancing at her parents, so blissfully unaware of the shadows looming just behind their smiles. Were they aware that whatever had been buried was about to resurface? With each hour passing, she quietly slipped between conversations, her heart growing heavier. Dinner was served, and they gathered around the sprawling table. The aroma of grilled chicken filled the air, accompanied by cheerful discussions about the summer harvest. But inside, Sarah wrestled with her restless spirit. Everything all right, sweetie? Her dad asked, wiping his mouth with a napkin, fixing her with a gentle gaze. Yeah, just thinking a lot, she replied, forcing a grin, but feeling the gap between her heart and her words widened as everyone cheered during a toast. Sarah couldn't help but feel that soon she might not be the same daughter they knew. The very fabric of her understanding was unraveling, but she was powerless to stop it. Soon, the sun would set, and with it, so many unanswered questions would wait for her at Mrs. Thompson's house. The idea sent a shiver down her spine. Could it really be, as they said, the truth that might set them free, or reveal something darker? As the party dwindled and laughter blended with the rising stars, Sarah's heartbeat quickened at the thought of what lay ahead. She knew that whatever Mrs. Thompson had to share would change everything. But would it bring her family together, or tear them apart? What if the truth is far more complicated than I can handle? She thought. Clenching her fists, she steeled herself for the confrontation with the unknown. Little did she know that as she prepared to delve into her family's past, the future held its own surprises, challenges that would test her strength and shape her destiny forever. As night fell, Sarah took a deep breath, ready to step into a world of shadows and light. What revelations awaited her, and would she emerge unscathed? The air around Sarah felt charged as she stepped away from the fading warmth of the party and headed toward Mrs. Thompson's house. The sounds of laughter fell away, replaced by the rustle of leaves and the distant chirping of crickets. It was a strange world, where the carefree moments of joy mingled with the heavy weight of truths yet to unfold. Her pulse raced as she walked, each step feeling heavier with the promise of revelation. Mrs. Thompson's house loomed ahead, its silhouette stark against the night sky, a seemingly ordinary place that might hold extraordinary secrets. She hesitated at the front gate. What if she was wrong? What if the unknown brought only pain? The porch light flickered as she approached, casting long shadows across the yard. She knocked softly, and within moments, the door creaked open. Mrs. Thompson stood there, her gaze penetrating and wise. The slight smile on her face did little to ease Sarah's tension. "Come in, dear," the older woman said, her voice soothing as she stepped aside to welcome her inside. As Sarah crossed the threshold, the cozy interior enveloped her like a warm blanket. The aroma of freshly brewed tea wafted through the air, blending with the faint scent of worn books. A small table held a collection of family photos, and for a moment, Sarah's curiosity was piqued. Each frame contained faces frozen in time, joyful moments captured in smiles and laughter, but the shadows in the background seemed to whisper stories left untold. "Have a seat," Mrs. Thompson instructed, settling across from her. "I know this is a difficult journey for you." The mention of a journey stirred something deep within Sarah. "You said there was so much to discuss," she said, struggling to keep her voice steady. "What do you know about my family? What is this legacy?" Mrs. Thompson leaned forward, her eyes filled with an earnestness that was hard to ignore. "It's about your grandmother, Sarah. You see, she wasn't just the woman your parents remember. There were parts of her life, darker parts that she kept hidden." The words sent a shiver down Sarah's spine. "Darker parts?" she echoed, her heart racing. "What do you mean?" "She made choices, sacrifices, to protect your family from the truth of their own history," Mrs. Thompson continued, her voice low and measured. "There were secrets, betrayals. Some of them have ripple effects that reach to this very day." "What kind of secrets?" Sarah asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "About love lost, about choices made under pressure, and about who you are, my dear," Mrs. Thompson said, her gaze unwavering. "Your identity is woven together with the threads of decisions made long before you were born. And those threads hold the key to understanding what you might need to do next." Confusion and a kaleidoscope of emotions swirled within Sarah. She felt a bittersweet pang, years of family dinners and stories shared, now overshadowed by something unknown. What could it reveal about her? About her family? Would the truth strengthen their bonds, or would it break them apart completely? As Mrs. Thompson retrieved a folded letter from her pocket, Sarah's heart skipped. The sight of the faded paper felt like a portal to a past she had never known. "Once you read this, Sarah, there's no going back. Are you ready?" With steady resolve, Sarah nodded. She could feel her fate leaning forward, poised on the edge of history. The moment to learn the truth was upon her, but what if it shattered everything she believed to be real about herself and her family? As she took the letter, she felt a ripple of uncertainty, but also an undeniable urge for clarity. The words inked within could shift the trajectory of her life forever. What awaited her inside the letter? The paper felt fragile in Sarah's hands, like a fragile relic from a time long past. As she unfolded the letter, the scent of aged paper wafted through the air, mixing with the aroma of tea and the warmth of the room. Mrs. Thompson watched her with keen eyes, a silent guardian standing watch as she prepared to dive into the depths of her family history. Sarah's breath hitched in her throat, her fingers trembling. What if I'm not ready for this? You're stronger than you think, Mrs. Thompson said gently. You have the power to reshape how you see your lineage, to redefine your identity with knowledge. Sometimes, truth can be painful, yet it will also set you free. Taking a deep breath, Sarah's resolve solidified. She couldn't turn back now. Unfolding the letter, she began to read aloud, her voice barely above a whisper. Dear Sarah, she started, the penmanship elegant yet faint. If you're reading this, it means it's time for you to know. Time for you to understand your grandmother's decisions, her sacrifices that shaped the family you know. With each word, the world around her dimmed, the essence of time warping as she lost herself in her grandmother's voice. The letter spoke of a love affair that had been socially unacceptable, shrouded in scandal. It spoke of whispered conversations and tears shed at night, and of choices that led to Sarah's existence blossoming from the roots of a secret garden. Your grandmother loved fiercely, but the world was not kind, Sarah read, emotion swirling. She faced rejection that left scars and fears lingering in our hearts. To protect you and your family, she buried the past. Sarah looked up, caught in the midst of overwhelming revelations. Why didn't anyone tell me? Why keep it hidden? The weight of betrayal mingled with a strange sense of relief. It was as if a part of her had always known there was something more beneath the surface. There are reasons, Mrs. Thompson replied softly, her voice almost a hush. People carry the burdens of their past, trying to shield the younger generation from pain. It's done out of love, but love sometimes leads us to silence where we should be speaking. As Sarah returned to the letter, the lines blurred. There were mentions of a fierce love that contorted into despair, family strife, and a heart-wrenching choice of decision that had tentacles reaching into the present. Her mother had taken stories and spun them into a tapestry, woven together with deception and truth. When she finished reading, the silence that followed was deafening. Sarah's heart raced with a whirlwind of emotions. This must have shattered her, she whispered, her throat tight. Mrs. Thompson nodded, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. But it was a sacrifice for you, dear. An act of courage in many ways. You hold both the shadows and light from your lineage. It's up to you to find your voice among it all. A muffled sound from outside caught their attention. The wind shifted, rustling leaves against the window. Sarah felt the heaviness of the letter in her hands, but there was also a spark igniting somewhere deep within her. What do I do with this now? She asked, the uncertainty lacing her words. You face your family. You approach them with love, understanding, and honesty. If they love you, they'll listen. It's time to share your truth, to weave the past into a new beginning. Mrs. Thompson encouraged as she absorbed those words. Sarah felt the pull of familial bonds, an urge to uncover the darkness and challenge it with light. She looked back down at the letter, thoughts racing. Would her parents be ready to confront the ghosts of their past, or would this revelation send them spiraling into chaos? Just then, another sound echoed from outside, urgent, carried by the wind. The chill swept through the room, sending a jolt down her spine. What had she awakened? She suddenly realized the letter was just the beginning. The real test awaited beyond the walls of this quiet house. As Sarah stood, feeling the weight of her family's South history close in on her, she knew she couldn't keep this to herself any longer. What awaited her at home was a confrontation that might change everything or unravel the very fabric of what she thought she knew. Would she be strong enough to face it? With a determined glare, Sarah turned back to Mrs. Thompson for reassurance. I have to go, she whispered, heart pounding with anticipation, ready to uncover even more hidden truths in the family that was still waiting for her return. But as she stepped toward the door, a powerful gust of wind rattled the window, almost as if it was warning her of the storm to come. Sarah took a deep breath, her heart racing as she approached the door. It felt as if every secret and unspoken word in her family resided just beyond that threshold, waiting for her. She grasped the doorknob, but hesitation gripped her heart like a vice. What if the answers she sought only lead to deeper wounds? The brisk wind outside seemed to echo her apprehension, rustling the branches like whispers of warning. Still, she needed to move forward. She had to confront the past to reclaim her present. With one gentle turn of the knob, the door creaked open, revealing a world painted in twilight hues. The fresh air filled her lungs, bringing with it the scent of rain-soaked earth mixed with autumn leaves, a comforting reminder of change. Yet, Sarah felt far from comforted. Her mind raced with possible scenarios of the conversation she would have with her parents. Would they be angry? Defensive? Would she find compassion or confrontation? With hesitant steps, she walked toward her childhood home. Each footfall echoed in her mind, reverberating with echoes of laughter, tears, and the unspoken stories that hung in the hallways like shadows. As she crossed the threshold into the familiar space, she was greeted by the soft glow of table lamps and the gentle hum of the television. Her mother was in the kitchen, the rich aroma of simmering soup enveloping her like a warm embrace. Yet, the comfort it usually brought felt distant today. "Hi, sweetie. You're home a bit early." Her mother's voice was bright, yet it masked a hint of nervous energy. "Yeah, there's something I need to talk about," Sarah said, her nerves knotting tighter as her mother's expression shifted from cheer to curiosity. "Okay, is everything all right?" Her mother's brow frowned with concern as she wiped her hands on a dish towel in that instant. Sarah's heart ached at the thought of the weight her mother carried, the memories and decisions, cloaked in secrecy, that had led them all to this point. "I found a letter from Grandma," she stammered, the revelation slipping out before she could contain it. The kitchen filled with a heavy silence. Her mother's face drained of color, and she leaned against the counter for support. "You found what?" "Her letter. The one about her past, about you." As Sarah spoke, she watched a wave of emotions wash over her mother, fear, surprise, guilt, and regret intertwined like a thicket. The light in her eyes dimmed, but a flicker of something more significant glimmered beneath. "Sarah, please. That's not something I want to revisit." The conflict was palpable. Sarah could sense her mother retreating into herself, an instinct born from years of avoiding painful truths. "But it's part of our history. It's part of who I am. I need you to be honest with me," she pressed, her voice climbing with urgency. Her mother paused, her hands trembling as she ran fingers through her hair, eyes glossing over. "You don't understand what you're asking of me. It's complicated. Then let us make it simple. I can't bear living under shadows anymore, not knowing what's true and what's been hidden," Sarah said, her chest tightening. "You owe it to me to share our truth." Before her mother could respond, the front door creaked open, a sudden gust of wind rushing in. Her father stepped inside, cheeks flushed from the cool air. "What is going on?" he asked, sensing the tension immediately. Sarah's heart raced. "I have something important to tell you both, something about Grandma and our family." Her parents exchanged glances, and Sarah noticed the flicker of alarm in her father's eyes. This was it. The moment to unravel the tangled threads of their family legacy lay before her. Could they face it together? Would love and understanding rise above fear and silence? As they gathered around the table, Sarah could feel the storm brewing, not outside, but inside her home. The winds of change howled louder, urging her to speak, urging her to confront the very heart of her family. But before she could delve deeper, an unexpected sound erupted from outside, a frantic barking. She strode toward the window, the urgency of the moment spiraling as her heart raced once more. "Sarah," her mother called, but her eyes remained fixed on the scene unfolding on the street. "No, please don't." She was about to find out if the truths buried in generations would emerge in the chaos, or if they would remain forever hidden. The barking grew louder, a desperate sound that demanded attention. Sarah's heart thudded in her chest as she peered out the window. There, amid swirling leaves and occasional raindrops, a small dog darted around, chasing its tail frantically, while two elderly neighbors stood nearby, murmuring to one another. Something was wrong, but the anxiety quickly shifted as Sarah turned back to her parents, their expressions a mix of concern and confusion. "Mom, Dad, what is happening?" she asked, torn between the urgency of her family discussion and the commotion brewing outside. Her father rubbed the back of his neck, a habit he had when worried. "It might just be some kids messing around," he said, trying to downplay the situation. But Sarah felt the tension in his voice, the quiet fear of the unknown mixing with the growing storm inside the house. Or it could be something else, Sarah replied, staring back out the window. There was more to this than seemed at first glance. This wasn't just about the dog anymore. The barking felt like a metaphor for the chaos rippling through her family. Whatever it is, we might need to check it out. Her mother's eyes darted nervously between Sarah and the door. Maybe it's nothing, sweetie. We should stay in here, focus on what you wanted to talk about. No, this could be important. Sarah's voice was firmer now, ignited by a mix of frustration and determination. She took a deep breath to steady herself, forcing back the fear constricting her chest. Choices have consequences, just like keeping secrets. The storm outside mirrored the turmoil swirling in her heart. With a resolute nod, Sarah moved toward the front door, swinging it open against the brisk wind. Her parents exchanged worried glances but followed her into the cool as they stepped outside. The dog continued its frantic dance, oblivious to its owner's failed attempts to rein it in. The sight made Sarah smile a little, a reminder of life's simple joys amid chaos. But that comfort quickly faded as she noticed the two neighbors had grown silent, their attention fixed on her family. She could feel their eyes, cloaked in curiosity and concern, as the storm swirling within her home collided with the very real winds outside. "Is everything all right, Sarah?" one of the neighbors asked, an elderly woman with a kind face creased by the lines of worry. Before Sarah could respond, the animal now ceased its antics and bolted off, leading them to follow. The dog's sudden focus on a cluster of bushes caught everyone off guard. With a sense of urgency, they darted after it, instinctively feeling the heat of a shared journey. As they reached the bushes, the old woman's voice quivered slightly. "There's something lost, something we've all been searching for," she said cryptically. Sarah's heart raced. Could it be more than just a lost dog? Could this moment hold clues to the family history she desperately sought? The familiar scent of damp leaves and wet soil enveloped her, the world around her narrowing to that moment, that possibility. "Stay close," her father cautioned, his voice booming against the backdrop of the soft drizzle. Sarah's gaze remained ahead, focused, full of hope and trepidation, mingling with the scent of rain. Then, as they parted the foliage, Sarah could hardly believe what she saw. Tucked beneath an old, gnarled tree was a weathered box, partially obscured by the undergrowth. Its edges were frayed, like the stories waiting to be uncovered. A shiver ran down her spine, and she turned to her parents, searching for a trace of recognition in their eyes. "What is that?" her mother whispered, her earlier tension shifting to intrigue. The veil of secrecy beginning to lift as the gusts whipped through the trees. Sarah could almost hear the whispered truths of her family echoing in the air. She reached for the box, her fingers trembling, the moment heavy with potential. What secrets lay safely locked away? What revelations might unfold? "Should I open it?" Sarah asked, glancing back at her parents, both caught in a mix of fear and curiosity. Their shared silence hung heavily between them, a crossroads where the past and future would collide. Then she heard it again, the barking. But this time, it wasn't from the dog. It was a sound that tugged at her heart. Something was coming, and it wasn't just the rain. "Do you hear that?" she asked, eyes wide. Would this lead her to truths that could change everything? The wind howled, and the world around them felt alive, brimming with possibilities. What lay ahead would determine if Sarah could finally piece together the fragments of her family's past, or if more shadows would be cast, forever shrouding them in silence. As Sarah leaned closer to the time-worn box, her breath caught in her throat. The barking intensified, becoming almost a chant resonating in her ears. It was a sound that seemed to ripple through her very core, a haunting echo of truths buried deep within the family connection she craved to understand. A stark contrast to the fragile beauty of the object before her. The reality of the moment settled heavily in the air. "Sarah!" Her father's urgent whisper broke through her focus, and she turned to see a look of panic etched across his face. The two neighbors were inching closer, their curiosity morphing into worry, as if drawn by an invisible thread to the moment unfolding. "It could be dangerous," he warned, glancing nervously at the forest of branches looming above them, swaying like specters caught in the wind. "But what if it's something we need to see?" Sarah pressed, her heart pounding against her ribs. The box seemed to shimmer in the gloom, beckoning her with promises of long-sought answers. What if it's something more? The neighbors stood silently behind, exchanging glances, an electric charge in the air as they sensed the gravity of the situation. The elderly woman's eyes were wide with a mix of caution and hope, as if she too were reliving forgotten moments, trying to recall pieces of her own story intertwined with theirs. Your family, the woman began, her voice a tender lament laced with shared history. You don't know how many lost pieces there really are, do you? With steady breaths, Sarah reached for the box again, the scrapes and bruises of time marking its surface. She could almost feel the weight of anticipation, the years of hiding secrets and sorrows. It took a gentle nudge to pry the lid open. The creak of the aged wood echoed like a hesitant sigh. Inside, a collection of faded photographs and letters sprawled out, their edges curling like the memories they held. A quick glance revealed smiles caught in mid-laughter, moments of joy preserved against a tumultuous backdrop. Flashes of her parents' youth stood frozen in time, a portrayal of lives lived vibrantly, long before the shadows of the present crept in. What is this? Her mother's voice quivered as she leaned closer, the shift of her tone revealing an alluring nostalgia mixed with mystery. As Sarah picked up the first photograph, fingers trembling, she recognized a face hidden among the family members. It was a woman who none of them had ever mentioned a grandmother, perhaps. Her presence felt undeniable, filling the space around them with a mix of warmth and loss. Who is she? Sarah asked, her heart racing. Why don't we know her? Her father's gaze fell, eyes tightening as he connected the past with the future. We didn't keep in touch. We had our reasons. The weight of his words lingered in the air, heavy and suffocating, but Sarah couldn't shake the gnawing sense of urgency. The barking continued, almost demanding an answer as it echoed through the gathering storm, amplifying her confusion. This box, she said, turning back, it's like a key, I sent it? A key to understanding what tore us apart. The breeze whispered through the trees, raindrops mingled with uncertainty, and her parents seemed to drift further into contemplation, as if discovering shadowy truths that had long been sealed away. Just then, with renewed fervor, she reached for a letter hidden beneath the photographs, its envelope yellowed and fragile. As she unfolded it, her heart leapt. A name haunted the pages, one that sent a ripple through the elderly woman standing by. Her eyes shimmered with recognition, filled with emotions she seemed to struggle to contain. Sarah. Her mother's voice cracked as she clasped Sarah's shoulder, filled with equal parts warning and promise. You may not want to know everything this box holds. The rain picked up, a torrent suddenly pouring down on them, lighting up the moment with urgency. What lay between the words on the page could potentially change everything. Sarah's heart raced. Would she unravel the threads of her family's history, or would the storm carry more secrets away? What if, she ventured, this is not just about the past? What if it's about our future? With her breath trembling, she turned toward her family, a profound moment looming. Could they confront what had been buried for so long? Would they embrace the truths waiting to be uncovered amid this tempest? And in that moment, the barking faded, leaving only the sound of the rain as if the world itself held its breath, waiting for Sarah to take the next step. Here we go, she whispered, lifting the fragile letter as the air thickened with potential. The wind howled, nudging them toward answers they had long sought. But was it too late? The storm raged outside, a relentless howl that matched the whirlwind of emotions inside Sarah's heart. As she held the letter, its weight felt heavier than the rain-soaked air around them. It was an invitation, a summons to uncover the truth. I can't go back, she whispered, glancing at her parents, their faces warm with worry and a hint of pride. We've been through it all, Sarah, her mother said, stepping closer, the resolve in her eyes like a lighthouse cutting through the fog. We can face this together. Sarah nodded, taking a deep breath. This was the moment. The horizon of her family's past and future rested in her hands. She unfolded the letter, each line pulsing with sentiment. To my beloved family, she began, her voice shaking. Memories swirled in the air around them as they leaned closer, eyes wide with expectation. The letter unfolded a story of sacrifice and love, a tale of a woman who carried burdens unseen. Sarah's grandmother spoke of dreams shattered and love denied. "I did what I must for your safety," Sarah read aloud, heart racing. Her father flinched at the words, but there was a flicker of understanding in his eyes. "She always put us first." "I never realized how heavy that weight was," he murmured, realizing the shadows cast upon their family tree had roots much deeper than he ever acknowledged. Tears flowed freely in her mother's eyes. "I thought I buried the pain," she whispered, "but it's always been here, hiding just out of sight." As Sarah continued, each revelation was like a heavy cloud lifting, sunlight breaking through, warming them against the chill of the storm. The stories painted a portrait of resilience, highlighting the beauty in the struggle, the power of community binding them tightly together. Eventually, Sarah arrived at the last page. "Your legacy will be rewritten by your own hands," she finished, a breath catching in her throat. The quiet that followed felt monumental, heavy with implications. "What does this mean for us?" Her father broke the silence, his voice thick with emotion, yet laced with hope. "It means we decide how to shape our legacy now," she replied, a spark igniting in her chest. "Together. No more hiding." As she spoke, she could feel the warmth of her family envelop her, the invisible threads of understanding weaving them closer than ever. Her father took a deep breath, pulling her into an embrace. "I'm sorry we kept this hidden. It's time we honor her truth and redefine our own," he said, a smile returning to his face illuminated by hope. The rain continued falling, a comforting roar as they moved back toward the box. Instead of fear, there was a dazzling clarity, a sense of unity that bound them firmly as a family. They flipped through the photographs, pointing at faces unknown, smiling at moments captured. The collection reflected their journey, one filled with both beautiful and challenging memories. It all brought fresh life to the fading wisdom of their past. "We can create a new story," Sarah exclaimed as excitement bubbled under her skin. "One that reflects who we are today with all our flaws, dreams, and the love we have for each other." Her parents nodded, tears brimming in their eyes, but their smiles wide, radiant with joy. The storm outside began to lessen, clouds parting ever so slightly, as if in admiration of the family's newfound strength as they stood together. Sarah felt that familiar warmth wrap around her once more. The winter storm had transformed into a gentle drizzle. "And as we share this, we can invite others in our community to join us." "Yes," her mother responded, the light returning to her eyes. "We can host a gathering again, a celebration to honor those who have come before us, and those still fighting their own battles." With renewed purpose, Sarah grabbed her phone. "Let us start planning right now." Her fingers flew over the screen, crafting messages to everyone they wanted to invite, including Mrs. Thompson, whose wisdom had sparked so much for them. "This is it," she said. The weight that had felt so heavy moments ago had only transformed into excitement. They were on the brink of something magnificent, a wave of understanding, connection, and relief as they worked side by side. Laughter punctuated their conversations, transforming the atmosphere from anxiety to joyful anticipation. Even the neighbors, who had lingered outside, could feel the warmth and hope radiating through the open door, drawn like moths to a flame. And it was in that moment that Sarah felt something deeper shift within her, the realization that vulnerability is a strength. The storm had passed, but its lesson lingered. They were ready to rewrite their family's story, one filled with love and honesty. They were not just surviving but thriving, not just connected but united. As night fell, the stars peeked through the clearing clouds, shining brightly in the cold Midwestern sky. The dark had never felt so hopeful. Together, they raised their glasses in a toast, a promise to embrace who they truly were, to uncover the dreams long buried, and honor the legacy that would be created by their love. "This is our moment," Sarah proclaimed, tears of joy streaming down her cheeks. "This is just the beginning." Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and show your support. Comment your reactions and feelings about the ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. You need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait, not even one more second to share. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.